So, spoilers, obviously, for those of you who have not seen the anime or read the manga. Uh, but, my shorthand review is go buy the manga. I swear to God, you should just buy the manga. Just buy the manga, you'll see what. And then once you go through the entire manga and then watch the anime, and then you'll see what everyone is talking about. That is my official review of basically the Uzumaki anime. But don't just take my word for it. Let's see what Matt Jones from IGN has to say. He says that he goes over a full series review here. He says it turns out it was actually impossible. I'll read through the entirety of the article and then I'll just put in what I thought. Uh, in my review of Uzumaki's first episode, I said I was excited to see the full series and if it could stick the full landing. But I was also worried that 4 half-hour episodes didn't give the story enough breathing room. If that series premiere felt like it went by fast, every subsequent episode performed a world record speedruns through Junji Ito's revered horror manga, moving so quickly I'm surprised none of the characters no clip through a wall, and with some of the terrible composition work in the anime, that might not be look too out of place. There is no room to contemplate the horrific events we've just witnessed, nor any mounting suspense. There is simply a 28-minute timer and a creative team treating every second of the screen like a hurdle. The anime both distills Uzumaki down to its core essentials and remixes when parts of the story take place. It does so without sacrificing any major pieces of the plot, an admirable attempt at a comprehensive adaptation that's flawed in its execution. Some of its abbreviation makes sense for TV. I enjoyed that production IG USA and Adult Swim found a way to focus episodes 2 and 3 on what's happening at the high school and the hospital, respectively, in the cursed town of Kurozucho. Scenes taking place in their scenes taking place in these settings are spread throughout the manga, so it is just efficient storytelling. Yet it also robs Uzumaki's most chilling concepts and of their impact, practically rendering them into non sequiturs. Consider the return of Mitsuru Yamaguchi, also known as Jack in the Box, at the very end of episode 3. It's a cheap scare, irrelevant to the preceding scene, and without any resolution to Kyrie's guilt over his death in the previous episode. It had me wondering why he had been included at all, especially when episodes 1 and 4 are happy to cut material from the manga that would be nice to have, but wasn't essential to keep. And here's basically what he is plugging his own review here for the preview. We'll just go over and skip that for now. Major character arcs are made stranger with the blending of events. Shuichi's sensitivity to the spirals and his rush to blame them for everything always read to me less as correctly examining the world and more of a paranoid obsession given the horrors that had taken his family away. We now get a single shot of him reacting to his mother's death before continuing on with the story, where the book, in the book or manga, the loss causes him to sit at home for weeks, becoming emaciated and gone. I don't mean to make comparisons solely for the sake of pointing out the differences between the manga and the anime. I mean that the series makes choices that intend to get the story over and done with rather than trying to convey them with a devastating emotional poignancy. That is the biggest one that I agree with here so far. I'd rather see a version of Uzumaki that's less adherent to the source material and more judicious towards what needs to be included from it than one that struggles to find a good space for everything the production team wants to put on screen. They're probably fighting with like Adult Swim or something. I don't know who the producer was, but I wish they were fired. Uh, that's I'll get into why I say that. I mean, obviously, that's hyperbole. They did the best they could. Where the first episode demonstrated some clever use of motion, adding some extra flair to already striking visuals, the later episode had trouble getting the still images right. Keiko, the bloodthirsty mother, whose newborn was stitched back into her womb, is one of the most notoriously horrifying spectacles in the manga, where Kyrie finds her on the operating table. Keiko is framed entirely in black and given darkened eyeshadows around her solid white eyes. There is no indication she's still alive. Here, her appearance hits with no impact whatsoever, removing the most shocking detail and adding sights and sounds of Keiko breathing, undercutting the manga's shock when she stirs awake a few panels later. The series is plagued by rough drawings that they look like they were supposed to be improved later. Damn, that's really rude. Either lacking detail or rendered in low resolution and blown up for high definition. There's horrible compositing. Some shots come across they were assembled by people who never spoke to each other. That is a huge thing that happens in animation, by the way. The industry is plagued with that. And some animation composed of static images bobbing up and down to simulate walking. Episode 2 is Uzumaki as artistic worst. There are some improvements in episode 2, 3, and 4, but it's all downhill from the premiere. I disagree with that. The entwined snakes that motionlessly slither into a hole in the beginning of episode 2 is laughably awful. The same with what should be the dramatic peak of episode 4, Shuichi seemingly falling to his death. The long plunge isn't animated at all. The still image of Shuichi and one of the mutated residents of Kurozocho simply shrinks from view. At least episode 4 is better than the two preceding it. The strict translation of the manga's final chapters with no other bits dipped in. It has a sense to leave a few things out. Did I even read that correctly? A strict translation of the manga's final chapters with no other bits dipped in. It has the sense to leave a few things out. It also manages to slow the pace, but by the end, I couldn't shake the thought of what a wasted opportunity Uzumaki was. I entirely agree with that. I'm certain that this project, delayed by circumstances outside anyone's control, insert the reason here. I would rather not have a Wikipedia article under my video over an anime. And was not what the creators intended to make. Sadly, it's what we've been left with. The verdict says, I presume Uzumaki's lengthy production was to ensure that the entire series would be the same high caliber as its first episode. Now, it's clear that that's not the case. Strange decisions and circumstances have befallen the creative team over at Adult Swim, who have given us mostly a poor attempt at translating the rest of Uzumaki to TV with minimal animation, bad compositing, and a rushed through story. It might be worth checking out the premiere and writing the rest off. It turns out it was impossible. With a hurried pace and insultingly poor visuals, Adult Swim's Uzumaki is another failed attempt at animating the Junji Ito story. So, okay. There was a hair in my face. Mostly kind of agree with the pacing critique. That was the thing that I think killed this the most. I know Meat Canyon was really worried about Uzumaki, and rightfully so, after looking at the Junji Ito mini vignettes that are on Netflix, which they had some good ones, but most of them were stinkers. And that's kind of the problem with Junji Ito. Although I really like him as a manga artist, his story writing is just, focusing on what really gross visual that he can come up with and trying to come up with a creative way. And the story is... There are some good stories like Kyo and Uzumaki, obviously. Hellstar Ramana, if you've ever heard of that. It is very hard to kind of make a Junji Ito adaptation because when you're reading the manga, it's really easy to just flip through the pages and it just goes by like lightning speed. But when you're trying to do horror in film or in animation or like as a motion picture medium of any type, your best you need lots and lots of good effects. First, if it's live action, a high detail and a lot of just time to process what happens. and because a lot of horror should rely on dread. It's not like they kind of treated Uzumaki like, oh well, we have to get to the scare, and that was the wrong approach to this. That's why I think the production team did not do a good job of that. The visuals, like I understand though, it's an animation team. They are obviously going to be having barriers of communication, and plus going from Japanese to English is not as easy as you think it is. Trust me, I know. The other part that I think that is the a very very fair critique is Shuichi's character is just like half or a fourth of what it is. He is like a paranoid motherfucker about spirals. After the fact his family just got kiboshed by the curse, like were the first victims of it. He he was not okay, and by the end of Uzumaki, he's just his sanity is gone. It's just gone, and his like his character arc in Uzumaki is just like on a huge speed run, basically. I think he put it pretty clearly here. They were speed running the entire story. Uh, at minimum, this should have been like 12 episodes, because a lot of the scares felt, or at least the horror aspects of this, were just really really rushed. That was the thing that I noticed that was really really hard to ignore and made it very hard to like. I do respect them trying to stick as much to the script and getting to, a very true transition to exactly what you saw in the manga. But if you really want to see Uzumaki and you really want to experience it, you gotta or rather, you gotta read the manga. It is phenomenal. It's one of his obviously, I think it's one of his best works. I think his best work is Gyo. Uh, that one is like super fucked up. But yeah, it's a lot of the character like Kyrie was surprised. She was like surprisingly a lot less rushed, but that's kind of a given because she's like one of the main focuses, or rather the main character of Uzumaki, basically. And but even then, like her character feels so strangely rushed, and it felt like somehow she got like her burn marks like healed within like 48 hours, and she's just fine. it's and I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like we can't keep rushing this. Um, oh, I mean, the good parts about Uzumaki though were the beginning and the end. Those are the best parts. They really got those two down, but I guess the best parts in the middle were probably the snails one, but that one just gives me heebie-jeebies all the time. And God, what was the other one? Oh, in the iconic like the Spiral Scar Girl. I forget what her name is. Honestly, I always do. But that one was pretty goddamn good. Those are probably the two best ones. Everything else was just complete stinker. I was surprised that episode 4 actually like kept all the details really, where and it all converges together. In the manga it does the same thing, but that should have been just like the season finale or like episode 12 or 13 or something. Everything was like, and they don't give you any time to just be like, because a lot of horror is dread. You need the time to like have people process, be like, well, what the hell was that? Or, just as slowly going along with the experience of the characters of losing their sanity and developing set phobia. That is half the fun. It kind of felt like they had it like imagine like I don't know what's a good example of this, like imagine like an H.P. Lovecraft story, but with the pacing of Five Nights at Freddy's. That's what this felt like, and that felt like a huge disservice. I don't know if it was Adult Swim decision or if it was the anime studio's decision to only make it 4 episodes, but I will say this: it was way better than the Junji Ito uh, diary thing on Netflix. Horrible, and that was one of the big like alarm bells saying, guys, Uzumaki might be in a bit of trouble. Uh, they did stick with black and white, but and they did have very smooth animation, and animation is very tedious and very long. It takes a long time to do, uh, but something tells me that this needed a lot more time in the oven. So that's my take. Did you hate my take? Did you love it? Do you agree wholeheartedly? I don't know. Well, let me know in the comments. Do you want me dead? I also read all those types of comments. It's great. I love getting those comments. Do you think that Uzumaki's stinky? Do you think I have bad taste? Uh, just leave a comment below. Send us to your friends on your Discord or whatever it is that you people use nowadays. Post about this on X. Go for it. But I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna drink my cucumber water and I'll leave now. See you later.